At 19, she discovered an unexpected wedding gift from a millionaire cowboy that transformed everything. Maggie Collins had always thought dreams were for people who could afford them. Beneath the dim fluorescent lights of Mel's diner, she poured coffee into chipped mugs, feeling the weight of the world pressing against her shoulders. Her heart ached for a future as a veterinarian, but the college bills piled up like the dishes in the sink. She often found herself drowning in the rhythm of orders, placing smiles on her face while her mind spiraled towards the aspirations that seemed so distant, taunted by the financial struggles her family faced. Living in her late grandmother's farmhouse, surrounded by billowing cornfields, made it all the more vivid, each stalk a reminder of a long-standing legacy bound by sweat and hard work. That stormy afternoon, as rain lashed against the windows, Maggie found herself in the attic, dust swirling through the air. Routine had led her there to clean, but instead she stumbled upon an ornately carved box, time-worn yet beautiful. She pulled it close, her breath hitching as she unfolded the layers inside. The wedding gown lay beautifully preserved, delicate lace faintly whispering stories of the past. But her heart raced when she unearthed the letter. Jake Thornton, the local millionaire cowboy, had penned a confession of sorts. It felt like a slap. Memories of townsfolk's whispers echoed in her mind. Jake was known for his wealth, but betrayal ran deeper. He was tied to family secrets that could unravel everything. Maggie's pulse quickened, torn between desire and dread. Here lay an inheritance that could alleviate her burdens, but at what cost? She feared becoming a pawn in a game she didn't comprehend. The very thought of taking a handout made her stomach turn. What would her grandmother say? The values of hard work and integrity collapsed in the face of temptation. What if the whispers around town were true? What if she was just a farmer's daughter dreaming too big? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can, leave a like. It really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The more Maggie considered Jake's generous offer, the more the swirling doubts clung to her. Every shift at the diner, her boss's condescending smirk echoed in her ears. She was always playing the role of the hard-working waitress, surely never destined to step into that world of glimmering opportunity where Jake existed.
She glanced at her own stained apron, realization crashing down. Was she willing to sacrifice her family's values for a chance at wealth? Just as she made a plan to head to Jake's ranch, grief gripped her heart. The torn letter slipped through her fingers, blown away by the wind. The door swung open, gusting blustering storm air into the attic. Jake stood silhouetted against the backdrop of torrential rain, a storm in his own eyes. Maggie felt the tension coil tighter. Could his intentions truly intertwine with her grand aspirations, or would they unravel everything she held dear? The question loomed as the winds howled, a metaphor for the storm raging within her. Everything changed in that moment, and the weight of her choices lay heavy, unresolved, as she stared into his piercing gaze. Maggie felt the electric charge in the air as Jake stepped into the attic, his silhouette framed by the relentless rain. Her heart raced, the conflict within her amplifying with every passing second. She had spent the last few days weighing the implications of accepting his inheritance, a golden ticket that could liberate her from the suffocating burden of financial strain. Still, Jake's presence ignited raw uncertainty. Who was he beyond the facade of wealth and mystery? "You found my letter," he stated, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate with the storm outside. He approached cautiously, left hand in his pocket, the right extending toward her. Maggie's instincts flashed an impulse to retreat, her own unworthiness whispering in her ear. It wasn't meant for me, was it?" she responded, the challenge of her tone betraying her vulnerability. Jake hesitated, taking a moment to gather himself. "I don't know what you think you know about me, but I want to set the record straight. That letter details intentions I had long buried." He paused, his expression softening. "I need to explain. My past choices haven't defined me." This was it, the moment where confrontation met revelation. Maggie stepped forward, grappling with a mixture of curiosity and indignation. "You're a millionaire, Jake. The town talks. Money changes everything, especially in a place where legacy weighs heavy like these fields," she said, waving her hand towards the rain-slicked window. "I know it's just a piece of paper, but I can't shake this feeling that it comes with strings attached. But I'm offering a chance, Maggie.
Jake asserted, leaning closer, his intensity almost palpable. Not just for financial gain. I see the passion in you, in your dreams. I want to support that. No strings attached if you take the risk. His words ignited a spark of ambition in her. What if she let go of her fears? What if she embraced this opportunity? Yet memories of her grandmother's teachings echoed, making her pause. What if support turns into something else? I've grown up teaching myself the value of hard work.
I can't accept you swooping in like a savior, she said, her voice barely a whisper, trembling with the weight of her family's legacy. Jake's frustration momentarily broke through. Maggie, hard work doesn't mean struggling alone. Sometimes it means accepting help when it's offered. This isn't just about money. It's about building a future you deserve. With every word, the storm outside raged as fiercely as Maggie's internal turmoil. Her thoughts raced, the possibility of a new chapter teetering on the edge. Could she redefine her path without forfeiting her principles? Did she have the strength to rewrite the narrative written long before her? The moment hung in the air, electric with possibility. She could walk away, uphold the values etched in her bones, or step into a new life. Just as she took a deep breath to respond, lightning struck, illuminating the room and casting doubt over her decision. Maggie's instincts flared, igniting her courage. What happens if I say yes to this path? Who will I become? Jake hesitated again, as if the stakes had shifted. Whoever you want to be. But the choice is yours. In that pivotal moment, Maggie realized that her true battle was not just against the townsfolk's whispers or the burden of her circumstances, but against her own self-doubt. Adrenaline coursed through her, urging her to leap into the unknown. As the thunder roared, sealing her fate, she whispered, I want to know more. I need to understand your intentions. Jake stepped forward, determination threaded through his voice. Then let's find out who you really are. Together. And with those words, the storm within her began to calm, allowing clarity to emerge. As the rain fell around them, she understood. The journey had just begun, and with that, the door to her evolution swung wide open. Salvation through confrontation awaited her around the next corner. Yet as they stood in the shadows of the attic, the lingering question remained. Would the truth of Jake's past bind them, or could it unlock the future she longed for? Maggie swallowed her apprehension, her resolve steeling as she looked into Jake's eyes. The weight of her family's legacy hung in the air like an unresolved question. Was this really a lifeline being offered, or merely a gilded snare? All right, she said, each word punctuated with a newfound clarity. I'll accept your help, but we do this on my terms. If there's any hint of manipulation or an agenda, I'm out. Her declaration hung between them, a boundary drawn in the sand. Jake nodded, a flicker of admiration crossing his features. Agreed. This has to be a partnership, not a transaction. As they spoke, the storm began to ease. A sense of quiet descended around them, seemingly echoing Maggie's internal shift. She hadn't just made a decision. She'd found a piece of her voice, the one she tucked away under a pile of expectations and burdens. The attic felt different now, more like a sanctuary than a cage. Sunlight broke through the clouds, filtering past the rain-streaked window, illuminating dust motes floating in the air. In that moment, Maggie felt the weight of past failures. They were still there, but no longer shackled to her future. What does this partnership look like? She asked, testing the waters of her new path. I can't just dive into the deep end without knowing how to swim. Jake smiled, the tension around his mouth softening, revealing a layer she hadn't seen before. I have connections, resources, and ideas to help you elevate your business plan, but this starts with your vision. What do you really want? She took a breath, thoughts flooding in. I want to create a space where local artists can thrive, where our community can see the value in our talents. A gallery that showcases not just the art, but the stories behind them. A platform that amplifies our voices. His nod was deliberate, encouraging. Start with a proposal. Define your goals and present it to me. I'll help you polish it, connect you with the right people to make it a reality. You just need to believe in your vision as much as I do.
Maggie felt a rush of excitement flush through her, energy she hadn't felt in what seemed like ages. The fear of stepping into the unknown began to dissolve. This wasn't just about financial relief, it was a chance to reclaim her narrative. After agreeing on a plan, a silence settled, shaping a bridge of trust, allowing them to share a moment untouched by the weight of the past. "You know," Maggie ventured cautiously, "this isn't just about business. I need to understand you, your story too." Jake's expression shifted, revealing layers of his own. "Perhaps the letter you found was the pushing point for me. I've lived with the burden of past mistakes, thinking that wealth absolved them." He hesitated, as if weighing his words carefully. "But money doesn't fix who we are. It just amplifies what's already there." Maggie contemplated his honesty, intrigued. "We all have stories like that. I didn't grow up with wealth, but there are moments I wish I could rewrite." Their exchange broke down barriers she hadn't known existed. Pieces of her identity began falling into place, each revealing an unguarded sense of ambition. When Jake left, promising to return in a few days with resources mapped out, Maggie began sketching her proposal, fueled by the flickers of hope ignited in the attic. She worked tirelessly, with each word binding her connection to her aspirations, untethered from doubt. That night, as she lay in bed, thoughts racing, she considered the stakes. The unfamiliar territory was ripe with potential. Every moment spent drafting her vision made her pulse accelerate with purpose. This wasn't just an opportunity, it was a rebirth of her passion, the beginning of a narrative only she could craft.
The journey ahead was vast and unpredictable, and as Maggie drifted to sleep, an echo rang true within her. Every story is filled with chapters of growth and uncertainty. Would the upcoming days solidify her new identity, or would lingering self-doubt threaten the momentum she had built? As the first light of dawn broke through her window, a question stitched itself into her resolve. What else could she discover about herself if she truly embraced the risks ahead? Maggie awoke to the soft light of dawn spilling into her room, a delicate glow that danced on the walls and beckoned her into the new day. She sat up, brushing the remnants of sleep from her eyes. There was an electric current running through her veins, a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The proposal waiting to be outlined on paper was more than just a business plan. It was a declaration of her intent to redefine her narrative. As the morning unfolded, she poured her coffee and sank into the rhythm of her thoughts. With the scent of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around her, she grabbed her notebook, the pages already speckled with half-formed ideas. Each unlined sheet represented her aspirations, but she realized today meant more than just committing them to paper. It was about commitment to herself, to her vision. The first words sprouted from her pen as she envisioned the laundry. She found herself writing beyond the tangible aspects of colors, canvases, and frames. The vision transformed into a canvas of possibilities, where local artists could share their narratives alongside their art, a testament to resilience in its many forms. But with this surge of creativity came a nagging voice, echoing doubts that lurked beneath the surface. What if her ambitions remained just wishes? What if she failed to attract the support she needed? Maggie paused, gritting her teeth. Tuning out the doubt, she continued to sketch her ideas, determined not to let fear dictate her future. She needed to acknowledge that fear was a part of ambition. The morning slipped into afternoon, and she started to piece together the elements of her proposal: the mission statement, the envisioned space, potential partnerships with local businesses. Every stroke of her pen infused the pages with conviction and a passion she hadn't felt in far too long. She wasn't just outlining a concept, she was outlining her reawakening. And then a thought pervaded her focus. What do I want my gallery to mean? The question triggered a cascade of deeper reflections. She'd always envisioned art as a form of communication, a bridge between cultures, emotions, and stories. How could she instill that in her space? It required not just an eye for art, but an understanding of the human experience. The layers of her proposal began to broaden as she contemplated the inclusion of workshops and community events where aspiring artists could express themselves freely, fostering talent she often felt was hidden beneath the surface of their town.
If she could create a nurturing environment that not only showcased art, but also cultivated artists, then she would indeed build a legacy that echoed far beyond her own dreams. Just as she was preparing to give her ideas a final sweep, an unsettling thought bowed her drive. Each layer of exposure in her proposal would require a certain vulnerability, the very thing that had kept her locked within confines for so long. Would revealing her ambitions be the unlock needed, or a betrayal of the cautious persona she had always worn? Maggie sat back, staring into the distance, feeling her resolve waver momentarily. To present her work would require her to stand at the edge of a precipice. Was she truly ready to leap? In the midst of her internal conflict, her phone buzzed, cutting through the tension in the air. The notification was from Jake, his message a reminder of her commitment. Excited to see your ideas soon. Let's make something great happen together. Maggie's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the moment of truth. Would she choose the comfort of hesitation or plunge into the exhilarating unknown? As she held her phone, the world outside felt impossibly full of opportunities waiting for her grasp. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the room, Maggie stood at a crossroads of self-doubt and ambition, her heart beating to the rhythm of possibility. The choice rested firmly in her hands. Would she step forward into her destiny, or retreat into the obscurity of anonymity? That question pressed against her, demanding an answer as night began to descend. Would she dare to take the risk, or would she falter when it truly mattered? Maggie set her phone down, the lingering warmth of Jake's words still echoing in her mind. She was awake, yet caught in a fading dream where comfort clashed with creativity. The proposal loomed before her, an intricate tapestry of color and possibility that she had begun to weave, yet now, in the silence of her room, it felt vulnerable and unfinished. As night descended, she picked up her notebook again, flipping through the pages filled with insights, sketches, and untamed thoughts. She settled on a blank page, the crispness seeming to challenge her to fill it with something raw and authentic. It was time to break free from the confines of doubt. Her pen hovered above the paper as she deliberated on how to encapsulate her vision. It required bravery she feared she might lack. It hit her suddenly, the essence she had been trying to articulate. The gallery should be more than an exhibit. It needed to be a conversation, a space where art and humanity intersected. Maggie's mind raced with ideas on how to structure her proposal. Could she frame it as a sanctuary for collective experiences? Could she write her mission statement rooted in inclusion and unguarded expression? She could already envision the warmth of the space, the welcoming sounds of laughter and exploration.
But a sudden wave of apprehension washed over her. What if she poured her heart onto those pages and no one heeded her vision? What if her concept was met with blank stares, or worse, condescension? The very fear she had tried to silence broke through her concentration, and frustration ignited within. Who was she to believe that her dreams could materialize in such a tangible way? But just as despair threatened to engulf her, she remembered a series of paintings she had once seen that stirred her heart. They hadn't just portrayed art. They told stories that resonated deeply, often eliciting laughter and tears. Taking a breath, Maggie adjusted her posture, determined to defy the weight of her doubts. She needed to draw upon her past experiences, recalling painters and sculptors whose work had transformed her perception of the world. The vibrant hues and striking forms that once captivated her now floated in her consciousness, illuminating a path forward. Each artist had faced their own challenges and had allowed their truths to guide their hands. What if she did the same? Her pen finally hit the paper, sweeping across the blank space. She wrote not only about artists to be featured, but also about the personal stories each piece would embody. The gallery would have themes that resonated with struggles and triumphs, their truths woven into each aspect of the space. She wanted to create workshops that fostered artistic expression, not governed by technical expertise, but rather influenced by heartfelt stories. The thought excited her. The gallery would become a living entity, a place for soul-bearing connections. As the ink dried and her outline took shape, an unexpected sense of empowerment began to bubble up within her. She realized she had something unique to offer, the ability to create a nurturing space that mirrored the vulnerabilities she had fought against for so long. With every sentence, the sense of purpose grew stronger, and she found herself picturing the opening night filled with curiosity and anticipation. But then, her heart raced with a fresh wave of anxiety. What if she failed to convey the profound essence that was her vision? Could she truly undertake this journey from within those shadows, stepping boldly into the limelight? With a combination of thoughts racing and resolve budding within her, Maggie leaned back in her chair, contemplating the duality of fear and excitement swirling within her. The decision loomed ever larger, holding the possibility of transformation. Then, a thought pierced through her moment of reflection. If her vision fell flat, what would she learn from that? Would it break her spirit, or catalyze her growth? Just as she felt the tide of her determination swell, her phone buzzed again, yanking her focus back to reality. Jake had sent a challenge this time. "Let's meet tomorrow. I want to hear everything." Maggie's heart quickened. The moment had arrived. Could she unearth the courage to confront the possibilities of her proposal? If she chose to reveal herself, could it catalyze a new journey, one where dreams met their reality? Fingers shaking slightly, she drafted a response, acutely aware that the next day would decide whether she took a step towards liberation or folded back into the safety of her doubts. Would she embrace the leap, or would this be another missed opportunity? The shadows in her room felt heavier,
Yet the flicker of hope shimmered brighter than ever. Tomorrow held the key. Would she dare to unlock it? Maggie woke to the warmth of sunlight filtering through her curtains. Today was the day. The thought jolted her from slumber, mixing excitement and dread in equal measure. She glanced at the clock, mindful that every minute spent hesitating would only amplify the tension coiling in her stomach. She could already hear Jake's encouraging words in her mind, a mantra propelling her toward action. After a quick shower, she stood before the mirror, her reflection a sacred site for affirmation. Soft brown eyes stared back, a canvas for her emotions, fear, hope, uncertainty, each swirling uniquely. Today was not merely a presentation. It marked her emergence as a creator, a visionary willing to stake a claim in a world often unwelcoming. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, noticing the way her voice wavered, but remained unwavering in its conviction. She brewed a cup of coffee, letting the rich aroma calm her racing thoughts. As the steam curled up into the air, she knew she couldn't just prepare a proposal. She needed to present herself, shrouded in innovative ideas and unyielding resolve. The gallery she envisioned was not just about art. It was about bridging the gap between heart and experience. Sitting at her desk, she played the scenario through her mind, inviting Jake to join her on a walk through the thoughts flooding her mind, articulating them one by one. Imagining his nodding head and the spark in his eyes ignited a passion she hadn't realized was so deeply buried. She began jotting down key points, breathing life into the abstract vision. What would it look like? A welcoming environment, surrounded by bold colors, where paintings spoke in voices filled with laughter and pain, transformative tales drawn from real lives. She envisioned themes akin to healing, discovery, and creative expression. Each shift from darkness to light communicated through the artwork she wished to bring forth. With every stroke of her pen, she began to carve a narrative of authenticity. Yet beneath the surface, an undercurrent of doubt threatened to pull her under. What would happen if her ideas fell flat? What if the wonder she felt didn't transfer to those in the room? The what-ifs surged around her like a tempest. She gripped the pen tighter, letting its weight ground her, while absorbing the energy streaming in from her thoughts.
Glimpses of past encounters with art collided with her present. The memories surged forth, vivid and clear. Conversations with artists about their fears and triumphs, the shared understanding of vulnerability. She recalled the way a single painting at a local exhibit had changed her life, the visceral feeling that washed over her as the brushstrokes invited her into another soul's experience. What if she could ignite that kind of transformation for someone else? The prospect filled her with a newfound fire. She quickly gathered her scattered notes and organized them into a cohesive structure, an arrangement that would present her vision not only as a gallery, but a sanctuary for souls thirsty for connection. Conviction bubbled inside her, a sense of belonging to a larger moment that awaited unfolding. As the hour approached, she felt the world shift. Her heart thrummed with anticipation, merging chaos with purpose. Clutching her proposal tightly, she stepped out the front door. The air felt charged with potential, each breath imbued with the confidence of her commitment. Pulling out her phone, she glanced at Jake's message once more, now a beacon of empowerment amid uncertainty. Yet, as she arrived at their meeting point, an unsettling realization cracked through her confidence. This would not merely be a product of her imagination, but a means of revealing who she had become. With a slight tremor in her hand, she typed a message to Jake, "I'm here, ready to share." As she hit send, a rush of adrenaline surged through her. This was the point of no return. Today didn't just hold the potential for Michael's approval, it threatened to unveil the hidden facets of her spirit, a gamble that would either cement her path forward or force her to reckon with lingering shadows of self-doubt. The cafe bustled around her, blending noise into a wave of energy she could no longer ignore. Would she find what she sought in that vibrant space, or would revelation deliver pain alongside clarity? Just then, Jake approached, a dance of anticipation and resolve reflected in his eyes. The moment of truth arrived, and Maggie understood. She was not just a participant, but the architect of her future. What would this pivotal conversation unearth about her true self? Maggie's breath caught as Jake slid into the seat across from her, the familiarity of his presence both comforting and intimidating. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, yet now that it was here, the gravity of what lay ahead pressed heavy on her shoulders. The cafe bustled around them, but in that instant it felt like they were suspended in a bubble, a world apart from the noises of clinking cups and soft chatter. "Hey Maggie," Jake said, his smile warm yet assessing. "Ready to dive in?" She forced the corners of her mouth up, nodding as she unfolded her proposal, presenting it like a fragile bird ready to take flight. The pages shook slightly in her hands, betraying her calm facade.
"So, I've been thinking a lot about the gallery," she said,
her tone low yet steady. It's about connection between art and people, between their darkness and their light. As she spoke, she could see Jake lean forward, interest peaked. Encouraged, she delved deeper, painting vivid images of the space she dreamed of creating. Each description unlocked another layer of her vision, a place where art could be a balm for wounds unseen, where visitors could see themselves reflected in the colors and strokes. Yet, as she animatedly shared her ideas, Maggie felt tendrils of self-doubt creep in again. While his eyes gleamed with excitement, a voice inside her hissed, "What if it's not enough? What if your passion isn't persuasive?" "That's incredible," Jake interjected, breaking into her spiral of worry, his eyes brightening. "But how do you plan to fund it? What steps are you considering to bring this dream into reality?" The question hung there like a cliff she had yet to scale. She hesitated, her mind racing to synthesize all that she had considered. There were always plans in her mind, projections and possibilities that felt tangible yet fragile, ideas that could slip through her fingers if she didn't grasp them with conviction. I've been considering crowdfunding, perhaps even seeking out local businesses for sponsorships, but honestly, it's the element of community support that I'm most interested in fostering." The words fell out of her mouth, a clumsy yet genuine attempt to convey her intentions and aspirations. Jake's brow furrowed, and for a moment doubt flickered across his features. It was a moment that stung, as if her vulnerability had not struck the chord she had hoped, but in the next breath he straightened, an energy shifting in his body. "That's a great start, but have you thought about what truly sets your vision apart? What makes this gallery yours?" That question stirred something deep within her. The why, that was always the crucial aspect, wasn't it? She needed to dig deeper, unearth the roots of her motivation, those precious strands that tangled her identity with this project. In that moment, she felt clarity break through the fog surrounding her aspirations. "It's about healing," Maggie asserted, the words coming out stronger now. "I've seen how art has the power to transform pain into insight, to allow people to see their struggles from a different angle. This gallery could show people they aren't alone. It would embrace every story, every scar." Jake's expression shifted from contemplation to admiration, and she could sense the validation swell between them. His voice softened. "You have the potential to touch lives, Maggie, but you need to believe that. You need to own it." The weight of his words anchored her, igniting a fire within that was both exhilarating and terrifying. She found herself questioning, though. Belief seemed like a mountain ahead of her, a summit she had seldom scaled.
Yet it wasn't an impossible climb. It was just the first step that felt insurmountable. As they began to discuss logistics and strategies, Maggie felt every word they exchanged build the foundation for her vision. Each answer she crafted cut away the doubt isolating her. Ideas flowed better than they had before, buoyed by the synergy in their conversation. Yet, beneath it all, a question lingered. How deep did this fire of self-belief burn? Hours melted away, conversations dancing from artwork to emotional impact, until the cafe glimmered softly in dimming light. Suddenly, a touch of reality crashed her reverie, shoving to the forefront of her thoughts the notion, if this was the path she chose, she needed more than a solid proposal. She would require relentless resilience and a commitment to growth. As they prepared to leave, Jake paused, his gaze piercing. "Maggie, if you believe in this vision, it will grow, but you have to show it to the world with unyielding confidence. They'll see only as far as you want them to." He handed her a small card for a networking event coming up next week. "You need to take that next step. The world needs to hear your voice." The weight of his words settled heavily on her heart, a mix of fear and motivation swirling inside. She could either embrace the challenge of revealing her vision to others or retreat into the safety of obscurity. As she turned to leave, a new flicker of reckoning lit within her. What would it take to step into this version of herself that was ready to be seen? The way forward loomed before her, a jagged path riddled with both possibility and risk. Maggie took a deep breath, heart racing to the rhythm of ambition. Knowing there was no turning back now, she needed to decisively step into a role not only as a dreamer, but as a doer. Would she find the courage to walk this tightrope of expectation and vulnerability? Maggie stared at the card in her hand as she stepped outside, the cool evening air wrapping around her like a blanket. It felt tangible, something she could fold and carry with her, but it was more than just a card. It was a challenge laid bare. Networking, the very word sent a ripple of anxiety through her. She had skirted opportunities like these before, always hiding behind her canvas or sketchbook. But tonight was different. Her conversation with Jake had chipped away at her hesitations, revealing the core of her desire, which was not only to create art, but to help others perceive their pain through it. If she was serious about this gallery, about her vision, she needed to connect not just with ideas, but with people, business owners, artists, potential patrons. She took a step forward, her heels clicking against the pavement, but each step felt heavier than the last.
She had sat in that cafe, ignited with passion, but outside, the chill of doubt harked back in. Who was she to think she could pull this off?
What if she made a fool of herself trying to connect with a network of experienced art patrons? Yet, as the doubt swirled, a stronger impulse pushed through, that undeniable drive to impact lives. What if she could turn her nerves into motivation? She pictured the gallery again, a sanctuary of stories transformed into art. Her art. And the thought propelled her forward. She needed to act. That night, Maggie crafted an email to Jake, expressing her gratitude but also sharing her decision to attend the networking event. Clarity surged within her as she wrote, allowing her words to form a bridge between her vision and the reality ahead. "This is just the beginning," she typed, feeling each keystroke resonate with affirmation. The days leading up to the event morphed into a whirlwind of preparation. Maggie immersed herself in details, researching the attendees, their work, and how her vision could synergize with theirs. She practiced her pitch in front of the mirror, challenging the self-doubt that threatened to unravel her confidence. Every practice session morphed into a habit, each line of her vision crystallizing in her mind. On the evening of the event, as Maggie entered the bustling hall, adrenaline coursed through her veins. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, voices melding into a harmonic hum. She felt small amid a sea of established figures. Anxiety gripped her heart, but she fought it back, reminding herself of the stories behind every brushstroke she admired. She made her way to the gallery of artworks displayed in vibrant colors. Taking a moment, she closed her eyes, letting the energy of each piece seep into her being. Art was alive here. It pulsed, breathed, and spoke. If she wanted to forge her path, she needed to embody that same vitality. Maggie spotted Jake across the floor, engaging in a conversation. As she approached him, doubt collided with an unexpected rush of determination. His face lit up, and he introduced her to a group of artists and investors. The moment her name left his lips, she felt a tether forming, a connection threading through those present. "Tell them about your gallery, Maggie," Jake prompted, nudging her gently forward. Her breath hitched, but she remembered her practices. Taking a moment to compose herself, she began to speak, the words flowing more easily than she expected. She discussed her passion, the mission behind her vision, and what drove her to create a space for healing through art. As she spoke, she noticed nods, expressions of intrigue, encouragement radiating from the faces around her. The room shrank, leaving only her narrative and the art she represented. This was her moment, a stark contrast to the timid girl who had once hesitated in the cafe. As she concluded, questions sparked from the audience, leading to lively discussions. Time slipped through the cracks of her enthusiasm, egging her on to connect deeper, to explore how her vision resonated with others.
But just as conversations lulled, a voice pierced the atmosphere. A man in a tailored suit, his demeanor sharp and dismissive. "It sounds nice in theory, but do you really believe this will translate into a successful venture? Art is a tough market. It'll crush your dreams if you're not careful." Stung, Maggie felt her confidence waver. Doubts threatened to bubble back up, but she locked eyes with Jake briefly, his steady gaze grounding her. She had to confront the skepticism, not just for herself, but for the vision she had come to embody. "Isn't it worth the risk?" she countered, her voice unwavering. "Art has always been a reflection of humanity, both the beauty and the struggle. If we shy away from those truths, we diminish its power." The sharpness of his gaze faltered momentarily. The room's energy shifted, curiosity rippling through the audience. Maggie's heart raced. She was facing an antagonistic perspective, demanding respect, not just from this man, but for herself and what she represented. As soft murmurs framed her statement, she could sense the room leaning closer, listening intently. With each moment, Maggie felt herself evolve, stepping into the role she had envisioned, no longer just a dreamer, but a voice ready to stake her claim. What other challenges lay ahead, and how far could she actually go? The man blinked slowly, a flicker of respect emerging as he started to respond. Deep inside, Maggie braced herself for what lay ahead. The moment of truth was upon her. Would she earn the validation she sought, or would she stumble and fall back into obscurity? The man in the suit's silence stretched, a palpable tension hanging between them. Maggie's heartbeat thudded in her ears. He opened his mouth, poised to respond, but something flickered in his eyes. Was it doubt? Interest? She held her breath, banking on the moment to tip in her favor. "Look," he began, the dismissive edge slightly softened. "Risk is part of the equation, but your plan needs a solid foundation. You mentioned healing. Can you define that? Can you explain how your art will actually translate into engagement, into profit?" Maggie fought back the urge to recoil. Defending her vision was no longer just about her idea, it was a measure of her very self. "Healing through art transcends traditional boundaries," she replied, her voice steadier.
It's about creating spaces where people feel seen, understood. That connection has value beyond sales. It's the essence of community and long-term engagement. The nods around the room reassured her. The conversation had shifted. She sensed a collective curiosity brewing. Even the man in the suit seemed more invested. He leaned closer, brows furrowing as he considered her words. Emboldened, Maggie decided to delve deeper into her vision. Imagine an exhibit that does not just display artwork, but narrates individual lives, stories of triumph and heartbreak.
Workshops that allow participants to express their narratives through creation, igniting not just appreciation for art, but engagement in the process. This isn't merely a gallery, it's an experience. Each word intensified her conviction, awakening a new confidence she hadn't anticipated. Around her, the audience leaned in even further, intrigued by the tapestry of engagement she was weaving. She could see faces softening with understanding, echoing her sentiments. How had she underestimated her ability to command attention with her vision? But an unsettling doubt still flickered at the back of her mind like a weak light, reminding her that admiration was one thing, support was another. What if her words inspired fleeting interest, but failed to convert into action? The man straightened, a flare of interest darting across his features. Enlightening, definitely, he acknowledged, his tone shifting. But he paused, a measuring gaze sweeping her expression. Do you have a strategy in mind to attract the right patrons? Seeking validation is one thing, sustaining momentum is another. Maggie knew she had to be tactical now. This wasn't just about artistic vision, it required logistical finesse. In the past, she would have wallowed in insecurity, but now, with her new resolve, she began drafting an outline in her mind. Absolutely, she responded, invigorated but cautious. I'm looking at a layered approach, engaging with local businesses, hosting opens that incorporate artists from within the community, collaborations that establish credibility and showcase diversity. Art is universal, and sharing these experiences will build a base of support, a loyal audience that buys into the mission. With each strategic point she made, her voice gained weight. The man in the suit nodded slowly, his expression transitioning from antagonism to contemplation. Others chimed in with their own ideas, forming a web of connection around her. Maggie felt an overwhelming sense of pride rising within her. She was no longer a timid artist. She had transformed into a passionate leader. The room pulsed with energy, a testament to the power of shared vision and collective dialogue. Yet, as her confidence soared, so too did a shadow of uncertainty. Did she truly have what it took to sustain this energy beyond the moment? The stakes were rising beyond just this interaction. Every thread she wove was a step towards her future. As discussions lingered, Jake caught her eye again, offering a reassuring smile. He had always believed in her, and now, surrounded by supportive energy, she felt something flickering alive within her. But the flicker also reminded her of the risks. They were part and parcel of ambition, and she had to learn to embrace them. The moment felt charged with possibilities, but the nagging voice of doubt remained. What about when the euphoria fades? Before she could dwell deeper, the man in the suit pulled her back to reality, asking for specifics regarding her projected timeline. You mentioned workshops. When can we expect those to launch? Maggie's heart raced again. Now was the moment to ensure that her inspiration could manifest into a practical plan. In 3 months, she declared, her voice unyielding. I will demonstrate the possible before the gallery launches. That will draw in patrons not just for monetary investment, but for a shared journey. The room hummed with approval, yet at the same time a thick layer of pressure enveloped her. Setting a date was a gamble. It brought with it accountability, something she couldn't previously fathom when she was lost in her art alone. As the discussion continued, more voices joined in. Ideas flowed like paint on canvas, colors mixing, forming something beyond imagination. Yet beneath the camaraderie was a palpable tension, the tension of her impending commitment to a vision that could either soar or fail spectacularly. Just as conversations reached a crescendo, Jake leaned closer, his brow creased with palpable concern. Maggie, the excitement is real, but be careful. Not everyone's intentions will mirror your passion. There are sharks in every creative industry. She blinked, digesting his warning. His caution was valid, but the thought of retreating was even scarier. The specter of fear loomed once again. Was she ready to face the undercurrents of the art world, the politics, the backhanded deals, the uncertain fate that lay ahead? The weight settled like an anchor in her chest,
and she locked eyes with Jake, a shared understanding blooming. The time had come to confront not just her ambitions, but to ensure that her dreams could withstand the currents of ambition that threatened them. There was no turning back. The stakes had never been higher. As the voices around her swirled into an inspiring cacophony, the only sound she truly heard was the rhythm of her racing heartbeat, pounding out a challenge. Would she learn to navigate the unpredictable terrain of passion versus pragmatism, or would the next chapter solidify her standing as an artist, ready to face down the art world's realities? Maggie stood in front of the gallery she had always envisioned. Today marked the grand opening of the Heart of Art, a name that resonated deeply with her mission to merge personal stories with the healing power of expression. This moment reflected not merely her artistic aspirations, but a profound evolution of self, one defined by courage, grit, and authentic connection. As the sunlight streamed through the large front windows, she could see the light bouncing off the walls adorned with vibrant artworks. Each piece told a story, just as she had wanted. Pieces from local artists, each reflecting their struggles and triumphs. This was her sanctuary, breathing life into her dreams and affirming the transformative possibilities embedded in creativity.
The sounds of laughter and conversation filled the air as guests arrived, their enthusiasm invigorating her spirit. A mixture of patrons, budding artists, and curious townsfolk shuffled through the entrance, their expressions flickering with delight at the art encapsulating raw human experiences. Maggie felt her heart swell. She had created a space where vulnerability fostered connection. Her initial steps towards this reality seemed far off just months ago. Anxiety had once paralyzed her. However, with each networking event, every pitch she honed, and every conversation she initiated, Maggie cultivated not only her project, but also her confidence. She had transformed from a wary dreamer into a determined architect of her future. The stakes had been daunting, but standing here, she felt the fruits of her labor fully blossom. With a steadying breath, Maggie remembered her crossroads, at that cafe with Jake, how far she had come since that initial confrontation with herself and her hesitations. No longer did she shy away from the challenges set forth by skeptics, including that man in the suit whose rigid demeanor had fueled her drive. Today she stood resolved and self-assured, a beacon for other emerging artists to pursue their narratives fearlessly. As she moved through the crowd, I could feel the energy shifting with each interaction. The conversations were not only supportive, they were inspiring. Guests discussed workshops, plans for collaborations, and potential events. They discussed the healing potential of storytelling through art, perfectly mirroring her vision. It was a living embodiment of everything she had fought to create, an ecosystem thriving on shared experiences. Just then, Jake appeared at her side, a proud smile lighting his face. The admiration was clear in his eyes as he surveyed the gallery, a space he had witnessed transform from a mere concept into something tangible. "You did it, Maggie," he said, his voice smooth as he gestured to the buzz surrounding them. "You've built something incredible." She met his gaze, feeling the warmth of gratitude swell within her. "I couldn't have done this without you believing in me. You pushed me when I needed it most." The unanticipated validation stirred her sentimentality, but even more, it cemented a recognition of her newfound resilience. As the crowd continued to swell, a sense of accomplishment washed over her. The evening unfolded without incident, and Maggie took the time to connect with guests, sharing the stories behind the art, making those vital connections that infuse life into her project. As more patrons expressed interest in supporting her initiative, combined with collaborative discussions with local businesses, she could sense a sturdy support structure forming. Maggie's thoughts drifted back to that timid girl who had once felt shackled by her limitations, believing she was simply the diner waitress, forever destined to remain behind the scenes.
Those fearful whispers had been replaced by affirmations, and she felt a sense of personal achievement solidifying around her like a protective shield. She was no longer waiting for dreams to find her. She was actively crafting her narrative, one vibrant stroke at a time. As the night concluded, the final guests departed, their spirits invigorated by Maggie's vision. In the silence that followed, she stood in her gallery, absorbing the moment, a space imbued with energy, art, and stories. She had manifested not just a gallery, but a community catalyst. In that solitude, she savored the culmination of her journey. Each challenge had honed her skills, reshaping her identity. The echoes of self-doubt had dissolved into the walls of this gallery, replaced by confidence born of resilience. Maggie grasped the depth of her personal transformation, the courage to chase her dreams,
the conviction to voice her truth, and the power to inspire others to do the same. Maggie smiled at the reflections of empowerment surrounding her. She had not merely opened a gallery, she had opened doors for conversations, healing, and connection, keys to a future that was hers to shape. With that certainty, she stepped forward, ready to welcome tomorrow's challenges head-on, knowing she truly had emerged from the shadows into a future laden with possibility. Now is the time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can change your perspective. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these empowering narratives keep reaching new faces. Comment below to share your reactions and theories about Maggie's incredible journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.